How we doing today, guys? It's Jesse, the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things nerdy through a common sense lens. And boys and girls, obviously, like many of us out there, we've been Star Wars fans for pretty much our entire life. It's something that many of us got introduced to as children. Some of you out there are even old enough to remember getting to see the original Star Wars movie before it became A New Hope in the actual theaters. And shout out to each and every one of you that have been here since the very beginning. You guys are the ones that passed it down to the rest of us, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. But the one person that we cannot thank anywhere, shape, or form for doing anything good with Star Wars is none other than the Walt Disney Company. As many of you out there might have been like me, I was excited when the Walt Disney Company first bought Star Wars because this was the height of the Marvel universe, how well things were doing over there in the MCU, and I thought we were going to get Star Wars movies on the same caliber and on the same level of course, the MCU and all the Marvel movies. And then, of course, The Force Awakens came out, and it was basically just a rehash of The New Hope, and, well, things only got worse from there. And then there was a slight glimmer of hope with Mando Season 1 and 2, where we thought we might get back to good Star Wars storytelling, and maybe some of us could just put behind us the Disney sequel trilogy and forget about it. But then, of course, boys and girls, it only got worse from there. Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Mando Season 3 and 4, and man, Ahsoka just really was the cherry on top of the cake. And ladies and gentlemen, it's not going to get any better anytime soon, because the next big person to be in charge of a Star Wars project, the Rey movie, we'll see if it ever actually comes to fruition, is none other than Director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. And she made some very interesting comments yesterday over there on New Year's Day on CNN about what the direction and what her vision is for the future of Star Wars and for the future of the Star Wars movie. And ladies and gentlemen, none of this is going to come as a shock to any of you, because guess what? As Kathleen Kennedy herself, the head of Disney Lucasfilm, said, the Force is female. And guess what? That's not changing, because as you can see right here from this lovely headline over at thatparkplace.com, written by John F. Trent, shout out to all of the wonderful folks over at That Park Place, and I'm glad to see John's fitting in nicely with his new home. Star Wars director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy declares it's about time we had a woman come forward to shape the story in a galaxy far, far away. Of course, completely and totally negating the fact that Lucasfilm, since Disney bought it, has been ran by a woman, Kathleen Kennedy, or of course the fact that George Lucas's wife had a huge hand in editing the original Star Wars, which would later become Star Wars A New Hope movie, and even won an award for the exact same thing. But of course, history doesn't matter, boys and girls, because they just want to erase all the history. They want to lie to you about it. They want to gaslight you about all of that kind of stuff, because they want you to be convinced that their version is the best version ever, that they are the first ones to do it, even though it all comes out to be an absolute lie at the end of the day, and color us shocked there. So we're going to check out this article from That Park Place, get into exactly what this lady said and what this can end up meaning for the future of Disney Star Wars, and why it's going to continue ostracizing the fans and cause the Walt Disney Company to lose even more money at the box office after a $1 billion massively bad loss of a year that 2023 was. So we're going to check out this article from That Park Place, getting all of the juicy details. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe if you are not already, because we are grinding, we are growing, we are reaching higher and higher levels, and we could not do that without every single one of you. Hitting that subscribe button doesn't cost you a thing, but we would thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts. So let's get into this article. Let's check out all the juicy details and see exactly what is the future of Disney Star Wars holds for us now. Star Wars director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy declares it's about time we had a woman come forward to shape that story in a galaxy far, far away. And just as a friendly reminder, this is the Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, who, yes, is a won in a couple of awards, but she has been nothing more than a documentary filmmaker talking about women's struggles in the Middle East. And shout out to her for bringing light to that. That's a very important issue. But this woman literally has no track record of success with actual fictional Hollywood movies in any way, shape, or form, and let alone any sci-fi chops. This is literally a woman that was hired for nothing more than her identity politics and the fact that she agrees with the agenda. I promise you that. And if you see this movie ever come to fruition, you're going to know that I was right, that we were all right about this nonsense. Director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy rang in the new year of 2024 by declaring it's time that Star Wars finally had a woman come forward to shape the story in a galaxy far, far away. I don't know, it's kind of just forgetting the person that hired her, Kathleen Kennedy? I don't know. Speaking with CNN just after the new year rang in, Obaid-Chinoy was introduced by CNN's Christy Lou Stout, saying, filmmaker and activist, mind you, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy is the only female director to have won 2 Academy Awards by the age of 37. Yeah, were they for great sci-fi epics? Were they for blockbuster billion-dollar Hollywood hits? No, they were a couple of documentaries. documentaries. She's also the first woman and the first person of color to direct a Star Wars film, and it's set to be released in 2026. Yeah, we'll see if that happens. Come on, proxy fight. Lou Stout must have completely memory holed Patty Jenkins and her Rogue Squadron film that was supposed to be released this winter. The film never came to fruition and has seemingly been scrapped. The time will tell if Obaid-Chinoy's planned film following Rey's rebuilding the Jedi Order will suffer the same fate. I'd imagine it probably will. And this is exactly why. And once again, like I said, they're trying to memory hole stuff. They're trying to talk about things. They're trying to forget what had come in the past, which of course that's the best part about the internet nowadays, because the internet is forever, and channels like this and so many other out there are going to continue to remind them of the fact that they are lying. So that when anybody out there that isn't aware of what's going on inside of Disney, Lucasfilm, isn't aware of what Kathleen Kennedy has been doing and what she continues to plan doing going forward, we want to make sure that all of you are very well aware of this and why Disney Star Wars is such a disaster, in case you might be new to the party. And if you are, thanks for being here. Pull up a chair. You're more than welcome at our table. Nevertheless, Obaid-Chinoy decided to confirm that the Walt Disney Company, Lucasfilm, and Star Wars are not changing the Force's female messaging that they have routinely pushed since Disney purchased Lucasfilm. Obaid-Chinoy said, "I'm very thrilled about the project because I think that we are about to create is something very special. And we are in 2024 now, and I think it's about time we had a woman come forward to shape the story in a galaxy far, far away." Sorry, Kathleen Kennedy. Apparently she doesn't think you exist. I don't know. I guess this would just be the narcissism that's pretty common among these Hollywood elites, huh? These comments are not out of the ordinary for Obaid-Chinoy. Speaking with Vice News and on TikTok back in May of 23, the director said, "My name is Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, and I'm directing the next Star Wars film. I'm excited about bringing Daisy Ridley back into the Star Wars galaxy and in telling her story. Her story. I'm excited to be immersed in the Jedi Academy, and I think there's so much excitement around the new Jedi Order. And don't get me wrong, I have nothing once against Daisy Ridley. She has been nothing but kind to the fans. I think she's a very attractive girl. She's got a nice old round rear end on her as well, and I think it's completely and totally fair what they've done to her. You could even see in some of the interviews after The Rise of Palpatine came out that she, of course, was like, yeah, it was okay. Sure, let's go with that. Like, seriously, when she asked if she was happy with the movie or not, she was like, yeah, let's go with that. Seriously, not a good look at all. She continued, "I always kicked open doors that were previously closed, and I think my feeling is that there's a critical mass of women who have begun to move forward in places that were previously closed to them. So not about wanting to tell a good Star Wars story, not wanting to tell a good sci-fi epic. No, whamming, 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 agenda, agenda, agenda. Color us shocked. Disney Star Wars is dead, and Kathleen Kennedy has killed it, boys and girls." And of course, don't forget, Bob Iger's the reason she's in that position, so make sure you give him plenty of the blame, too. As for Obaid-Chinoy's insinuation that women haven't been steering Star Wars, it's utterly a joke, given Kathleen Kennedy has been president for Lucasfilm since the Walt Disney Company purchased the company from George Lucas. In fact, Kennedy made it abundantly clear that they were going to inject feminist perspective into the franchise from the very get-go. She told Forbes in 2015, "I think the interesting path we've had is the conversation that took place around consumer products, because there were a lot of companies that were also in place who frankly didn't initially feel Star Wars for girls. And guess what? It doesn't matter if it's Marvel, it doesn't matter if it's DC, it doesn't matter if it's Star Wars, it doesn't matter if it's traditional, anything other that it has out there that's been kind of a quote-unquote boys franchise, right? The toys don't sell. You go to any Ollie's out there in the country right now, and you are going to find massive amounts of Disney Star Wars toys, massive amounts of Disney MCU toys, and guess what? The majority of it is all the female characters. They don't sell. They don't sell. The toy sales have proven that over the last few years that what they're doing is an abysmal failure. So guess what? Whether there's plenty of females out there that love Star Wars, but guess what? They're not interested in your Mary Sue characters that literally come out of nowhere and all of a sudden the bestest, fastest, most powerful people out there with literally no training whatsoever. And that's the big issue. And it's one of them situations that they would go on. And here's some of the other problems. We have 50% of our executive team are women. 6 out of 8 people in my story group are women. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that would be surprised that we're making Star Wars movies, and the majority of people involved in the development of these stories are women. And I think that's making a huge difference in the stories that we're trying to tell. Now, mind you, this was back in 2015. How well has that worked for them whatsoever? Because guess what? Even Rise of Palpatine lost them money after making over $1 billion globally, because they spent almost $650 million on that damn movie between reshoots and rewrites and everything else. They have been bleeding money on Star Wars ever since they bought it for over $1 billion. How's that looking for Bob Iger's legacy, boys and girls? The man who could not create anything on his own, just was really good about buying other people's stuff and completely and totally destroying it. Thanks for that, Bob Iger. And this is one of the best parts is even George Lucas's own wife pointed this out. This lady right here who literally won an Academy Award for working on the editing process of the film, George Lucas's first wife, Marcia Lucas. She has been critical of Kennedy and her handling of Star Wars. In the book Howard Condon's A Producer's Life, she says, now that Kathleen Kennedy is running Lucasfilm and making movies, it seems to me that Kathy Kennedy and Jar Jar Abrams do not have a clue about Star Wars. They don't get it. And Jar Jar Abrams is writing these stories. When I saw that movie where they kill Han Solo, I was furious. I was furious when they killed Han Solo. Absolutely positively, there was no rhyme or reason to it. I completely agree. I thought, you don't get the Jedi story. You don't get the magic of Star Wars. You're getting rid of Han Solo? And then at the end of the last one, The Last Jedi, they have Luke disintegrate. They killed Han Solo, they killed Luke Skywalker, and they don't have Princess Leia anymore. They're spitting out movies every year. It's been an absolute abysmal failure all the time. And she even called out the feminism of the film. And they think it's important to appeal to a woman's audience. So now their main character is this female who's supposed to have a Jedi powers. We don't know how she got Jedi powers, who she is. It sucks. The storylines are terrible, just terrible and awful. And Lucas even said, you can quote me. J.J. Abrams, Kathy Kennedy, talk to me, which of course she didn't because their egos and their narcissism would never allow them to do that. So John Trent here concludes, the Walt Disney Company and Lucasfilm do not appear to be changing their tune anytime soon and will continue with the Force is female message with Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy's sequel film. One can only predict if it will have just as disastrous a box office as the most recently released Marvel's film. I honestly think it could probably be potentially even worse than that because there simply aren't enough shills out there. There's simply enough Disney Star Wars stands out there to even prop that thing up to the level of the Marvels. If, and that is a big if this movie ever comes to fruition, if it ever sees the light of day in the theaters, I cannot wait to report on its box office because it is going to be one of the biggest disastrous dumpster fires and will absolutely be the last nail in the coffin of Disney Star Wars being completely and totally dead. And guess what? Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger are the ones that are solely responsible for it. Bob Iger for allowing her be in charge of Lucasfilm and leaving her there after seeing one box office disaster and one ratings disaster after another. Disney Star Wars is dead. They have killed it. And this is the last gasp at Kathleen Kennedy desperately trying to hold on to her job. Do I think this movie will ever come out? No. Am I excited to see what happens with the proxy fight and how proxy fight coming very soon this year? Yes. I cannot wait to see what kind of heads roll and I cannot wait to see what kind of projects get canceled. And I think this one, just like so many of the other Disney Star Wars projects that have been quietly canceled, will end up being the exact same thing. And what this lady says about shaping the future with a galaxy far, far away, having a woman do it, and all of their injection of all of the rest of their nonsense, guess what, activists? You are the ones who have killed the once most successful franchise in sci-fi history, arguably, and now it's dead, and you're going to continue to beat a dead horse long after the corpse is literally rotted in the ground. So go ahead, Disney Star Wars. You've done it to yourself, and you're getting exactly what you deserve. Burn, Disney Star Wars, burn, and hopefully someday someone will be able to pick up the pieces and actually give us something good. But until then, it's all going to be bad news for Star Wars fans, and that sucks for all of us. But hey, that's just my common sense take, boys and girls. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section down below. Does any of this surprise you? There's going to be full steam ahead with the Force's female agenda, that absolutely nothing is going to change, and that this director is coming out there and already saying, not talking about a good Star Wars movie, talking about an epic story. No, it's going to be all about agenda and wham! And of course, their genitals appear to be more important than any kind of good quality storytelling cred that a person who might be hired for this actually should indeed have. Let me know what you think about all that in the comments section down below. If you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe if you have not already. This is Jesse, the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things nerdy through a common sense lens. Thanks for watching.